Hello and welcome to the top 16 superstars for the 2020 FIA Gran Turismo Championships. We're here today for the North America region race for round 16. My name is Tom Brooks, alongside me Jimmy Broadbent. Action to come today from the Manufacturers Series, but first of all we're going into the Nations Cup. Jimmy, Pagani Zonda R cars at the Nürburgring GP circuit. What are you expecting for this one?
Oversteer and understeer together at the same time. This car is really tricky to drive. I drove it a bit the other day against Carlos Salazar, great guy by the way, and it's a very tricky thing to get around here quickly. When you put on 16 of those cars around the circuit, it becomes even more tricky, so looking forward to the race.
Yeah, you can see 15 laps for these drivers, racing medium and soft compound of tyres available to them as well. They must use each tyre compound in the race, so we might expect one-stop strategies, potentially a couple of two-stops in there as well if drivers are feeling a bit brave. More on that as we head over to the grid. You can see the penalty line from turn 6 down towards turn 7. You don't want to get a penalty, especially not there either, because you'll be losing a lot of time compared to your fellow competitors. Anyway, let's head over then, shall we, and see how the drivers line up. Over then to the grid for the top 16 superstars race for the North America's region of the Nations Cup. All the Pagani Zonda R's lined up. Randall Hayward starts on pole position. Alongside him on the front row is Gallen, the Canadian driver. Second row of the grid headed by Andrew Brooks. Always a good qualifier. Can he convert that into a strong result in the race? Parker lines up in 4th position. Alongside him, then the next row of the grid is headed by Danny Solis. Very lovely looking livery on his machine. Alongside him is Lynch. The next row of the grid, well, that is headed by Kevin Pounder. And alongside the American driver is his fellow compatriot Robbie Heck, a driver who we know has been very quick. Needs a bit of luck on his side. Tristan Bayliss, 9th position for him. And alongside him is Mark Pinnell in the very distinctive gold chrome livery machine. Grove lines up in 11th position. P12 on the grid is Mitchell. Looking a little bit further back as we head into the final half of it is Helt in 13th position. Unlucky for some, hopefully not for him. 14th place is Main Prize. I wonder what his main prize will be here today. 15th place is Scaveland. The Canadian driver lines up on the final row of the grid, and completing our 16 drivers here is Stewart. So we can see there a first look at the tyres, Jimmy. The top 7 starting on softs.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of guys try a two-stop strategy. Really in this race you only have to make one stop mandatory, which is a soft onto the medium or vice versa. But we have seen some people try and make that work. We have Valerio Gallo in the EMEA region race almost challenge for a win with one more pit stop. So it can go either way. The driver's now getting ready to come on to their first flying lap. Rolling start here, of course, so the AI currently in control of the car, and you'll see the drivers as they cross the line weave dramatically to try and get some heat into the tyres before coming down the T1. T1 hairpin, good place to overtake if you're feeling brave.
So Randall Hayward will lead the field around the final corner and over the start-finish line here at the Nürburgring GP circuit. Then what can Hayward do? Again, we know a driver who has been very quick, clearly likes these Zonda R cars to be quick over one lap, but it's over 15 laps where the results will come through. Let's see what's going to happen then as we get the North America's region underway here for the top 16 superstars. Hayward leads the field over the line at the Nürburgring as we go green then. Who is going to lead the way at the end of these 15 laps? Hayward leads the field ahead of Gallen. You can see those drivers weaving in the background there as they try to get heat to the tyres. Gallen trying to go the long way round the outside there, but not quite able to make a move stick on Hayward, so clearly looking very confident into that first corner on the softer compound of tyres, but everybody taking things quite careful and quite considerate amongst others, which is very good to see. So a nice clean start from everybody by the looks of things.
Yeah, so far so good, of course. You don't want to be picking up a penalty on the first couple of laps. It can really ruin your race when the field is all bunched together like this. Coming then down to the full curve, fast left-hander, you have to slow it down for the right. Sometimes you're going to slingshot yourself into that right-hander a bit too quickly and go wide to the gravel. Easy to do that there, and of course ruin your run down towards the hairpin. You see that marker on the right-hand side of your screen? That's a penalty zone, so if anyone picks up a penalty, that's where it will be, and they'll be slowed down coming down to the hairpin. Meanwhile, Jeff Gallen, good to see him back. Haven't seen him around a while in these races. Good to see him there and at the front of the field as well. Someone who was very, very quick in the World Tour events when he was there, and taking a bit of a break, I think, but good to see him back at the front of the field.
Yep, going through the Michael Schumacher-esque and still putting that pressure on to Randall Hayward here. So through into the left-hander, quite a good opportunity to try and set something up, not necessarily through that left-hander, but into this right. If you get a strong exit coming out of it, you get a good run as you head up the hill in towards the chicane. That is a very prime overtaking opportunity. It does reward the brave though, because it's quite a tight part of the circuit. You can see it's very narrow, that part of the track, so you really have to try and be very committed indeed as you go through that. You can see Gallen as he hops over the curbs and heads in towards that final couple of corners. Lovely stuff here from all of our drivers in the opening stages, and well, not much in terms of overtaking action in that first lap there, Jimmy, but still interesting to see how it's all going to play out between these guys as the strategy comes into play. And speaking of strategy, the medium runners coming in, all actually aside from Robbie Heck.
Yeah, I think there is also a dose of fuel that has to go into the car at some point as well, so when you put that fuel in, it's also going to affect your kind of end result, as easy as that sounds, of course. Yeah, only Robbie Heck out on the medium tyre now, so his hope, I guess, is to try and hold up the slow runners a little bit, try and keep them behind him. But otherwise, he's going to be losing time at this point to the guys around him. The undercut definitely exists in GT Sport, and it definitely exists in that soft compounded tyre, so you see him really just trying to keep on the back of Kevin Pounder there, but I think it's fighting a losing battle a bit there as Robbie Heck.
Do you think he might have cost himself quite dearly in these opening couple of laps here by staying on these medium tyres? Could this potentially be a compromising part to his race now?
It's a possibility. We tend to call the strategies from what we've learned over the course of these couple of years we've been doing this now, but we always seem to be wrong. So you know, I'd hope that he can come back from, of course, for the sake of our race and for the sake of his race, but he's just losing time now already. 1.7 seconds behind Kevin Pounder, so and of course Bayless behind you has made a stop, 3.4 seconds and gaining pretty much every corner.
So they're looking here at Lynch, putting some pressure onto Danny Solis. Again, Danny looking quite quick in qualifying trim, has fallen back a little bit in the opening stages of this race, now in P5 with Lynch putting that pressure on to him. Is Lynch going to be able to find a way past? And that is the crucial question. Coming up towards that chicane we go once again, hard on the brake, shifting down third, then into second, over the curb. Look at the full front of his shot there. Donovan Parker just going a little bit wide, a little bit over the curb, bit of oversteer coming through there. That could potentially compromise him a little bit here. And see there, these guys running nose to tail. I just think it's so impressive how they're able to run so closely to one another. Great amount of respect between these drivers.
That as well, and you kind of almost don't get the idea of what it's like to run that close to someone and still hit your marks, because you kind of half your screen is being taken up by the rear end of a Zonda in front, which is always a good thing usually. It's a very pretty back of that car on the Zonda, but it does mean you can't see your apex as much, and I've been in positions myself where I've tried to make a move on someone, tried to follow someone closely and just missed my corner because I've been just too busy looking at the car in front. Target fixation they call it. But of course these guys know a lot better than that, and it's given us a great fight so far. Hayward, Gallen and Brooks, of course, these are all big names in the North America region, all squabbling out on track right now, all the same strategy too, so it should be an interesting one to the end if things continue like this.
Well, how do you find the advantages then if you're all running on the same strategy, all looking pretty similar on pace? Where do you look to get an edge over your fellow competitor?
Maybe the undercut. People like doing undercuts around here, so that's pitting a lap earlier than the guy in front of you and hoping the soft tyre or the fresh tyre advantage is enough on your outlap to gain a little bit of time. Or maybe fuel around here as well. We have noticed a little bit of fuel goes into the car towards the end of the race, so maybe just a lift and coast, maybe just chilling out behind the guy in front, do what Andrew Brooks is doing right now, just being dragged along by his fellow Canadian driver. And just saving a bit of fuel, making your pit stop a little bit shorter. The less time you're stationary, the more time you're out on track, the quicker your race is going to be.
Running on board here with Andrew Brooks as we head into that chicane once more. Very smooth inputs here. You've driven this car, Jimmy, as well. You were saying it's a bit of a mixture of oversteer and understeer. What are the bespoke characteristics of it, would you say?
Just power. Italian V12 power is what I'd say. You press the throttle and your light speed happens very quickly. I'll get back to that in a second though, because it looks like Jeff Gallen's going to go for a move on Randall Hayward up the inside there, late on the brakes, classic T1 overtake, block pass there, gets on the apex, slows it right down, gives Randall no chance to slingshot back through again and just sits on the apex like he's entitled to do. Good pass by Jeff there. That's a very experienced pass and has worked very well. Now will Randall respond to that though? Will he be just happy driving around behind behind Jeff Gallen. I'm not sure, and I wonder what Andrew Brooks is going to react to this, because maybe he thinks Jeff's quicker, maybe Jeff can now put a bit of a gap, and does Brooks want to try and leapfrog Haywood and do the same thing and go chasing down Jeff Gallen? He's looking like he will. He's very aggressive positioning of the car there, and what I mean by that, even though he's not looking for a pass, he's just kind of putting to the inside a little bit and making Randall think he might go for a move, which sometimes is as effective as going for a move itself.
Impressive motion with that pass from Gallen is he actually set that up in the chicane. He got a good exit out of there, got really close into the final corner. The rest, as they say, is history. He now leads the way, does the Canadian driver. Riding on board here, great sense of speed from Andrew Brooks's bumper cam into the left-hander. Now, as you say, he is probably going to be able to have something in the tank to try and retaliate. He was quite close in the first sector, seems to have just cost himself a little bit of time in that middle one, not quite close enough to launch anything at the moment. Does have the advantage of the slipstream, but of course Haywood in front also has that as well, so it's kind of negated there really. Just in the background you can see there Donovan Parker and also Danny Solis not too far adrift, so if these guys start squabbling amongst one another, that's the risk, isn't it, that other drivers can close up from behind.
Yeah, it's kind of the chess game you're playing with the guys around you. Of course, these guys don't tend to communicate during the race, so I have seen some sit on a voice chat like Discord or something like that and just have a little chat with each other while the race is going on. But usually it's quite quiet because it's a competitive atmosphere, so you don't tend to see people work together like that. But sometimes you can communicate that on track by maybe letting someone by at the end of a straight if they've got to run and just lifting out of it, and then maybe doing the same going down there. You kind of figure out as a driver who you can and who you can't work with over a period of time. Interestingly, by the way, we've had our first soft runners come into the pit, and they're going to go for the two-stop, it seems. So Danny Solis, Tristan Bayliss, Kevin Pounder, all in for another set of the soft tyres. So fast middle stint and a slow end, it seems, for them. Well, meanwhile, it looks like these top four people, and I include Donovan Parker in that, they're just in the background, are going to be going for the one-stop, it seems. Yeah, difference in strategies always does make things quite interesting here. We've seen it in a bit more of an extreme example when we have all three compound tyre, the medium, the soft and the hards, available to the drivers in some other races, that it can, well, generally be quite exciting in some respects, but we see a difference in strategy. Some people do 3 stops, some people do 4 stops, some people do 2 stops, whatever. But here we're seeing 1 or 2 stop strategies generally amongst these drivers. Here is Danny Solis then in 6th position. Just having a look at his pace over the well, last lap, of course, he was in the pits, so a little bit not representative, but he's been running relatively close to Conor Lynch's pace, about a tenth of a second or so slower. So we're used to seeing Danny Solis fighting at the front, but clearly, for one reason or another, doesn't seem to have the race pace, at this stage at least, to bring the battle to these guys. I will see. I mean, he's on that fresh set of tyres now, so that might be what he needs to get back into the fray. Now, I said these guys will be doing a one-stop, and of course, as soon as I say that, they'll go, oh, no, we're not. We're going to do a two-stop. So in comes Brooks, in comes Haywood. Interestingly, Jeff Gallen goes on, so maybe he is trying the one-stop. These guys come into the pit lane. Maybe a little splash of fuel for some of them. No, I don't think they have actually. They've all come in and just left on the same fuel they entered with, so no fuel going in those cars, but coming out in the soft compounder tyre. And there's Danny Solis, who has made that stop already. Jumps ahead of Donovan Parker now and is in the mix with Andrew Brooks. So there you go, the undercut working very well for Danny Solis.
There we go, so clearly he does have the pace to be fighting with them, and the strategy has worked very nicely indeed here for Solis. So he's going to have to try and put the pressure. The advantage, of course, is that well, his tyres are a little bit more up to temperature compared to Donovan Parker, for example, who is behind. So let's keep an eye and see how quickly he's going to be able to pull away, and in turn how quickly he'll be able to try and hopefully attack against Andrew Brooks, who is in front. All of these guys running relatively close to one another. Dirty air is something to take into consideration here. Those huge rear wings on the back do provide a good amount of downforce. Converse of that, of course, is that there is a bit of dirty air, a bit of turbulent air, causes the front to understeer, causes tyres to wear out. It means that it is a little bit difficult to run close to one another. You can see Parker there, again, very close to Danny Solis now. He's got some heat into his tyres. I wonder whether he is going to be able to find his way through here before too long, or at least try and upset Solis's charge here.
Yeah, well, Daniel is going to try and get onto the back of this group in front, but he's fallen back already, and that's the difference. These tyres, we've got a 3 times tyre wear multiplier around here, so they go off fairly quickly, these softs, especially in these cars where they're really being stressed to their limit. As Donovan Parker, he had a run coming out of the right hand onto the back straight, but ruined it by just touching the gravel, slows you right down as you expect it would do. But they are starting to bunch up a little bit now. Danny just needs to make that a little bit of that ground between himself and Andrew Brooks in front to get onto the back. Now Jeff Gallen's come in there. He is going for the two stop as well. So does Lynch. So I wonder where Gallen's going to come out here, because he was leading, but now I think it's going to be. He must have surely lost a couple of places. No, so looks.
No, he had a really good in-lap actually there. Jeff Gallen was keeping an eye on the timings, and he was really strong there. Might have lost a bit of an advantage he had over his lead, but still emerges out in front. And that's good because, of course, he's now got newer rubber compared to those around him, so he should be able to push a bit harder here, especially with no dirty air, no cars in front of him.
Yeah, should be nice to him now. As you say, with fresher tyres as well. Just drive away. Just don't look in the mirrors too much. Don't pick up any silly penalties, which is very easy to do around here with these guys stretching the track limits as much as they can. Of course, that is what every racing driver does, be it virtual or real. You go out and basically take the mick as much as you can until someone slaps your wrist for it. And right now they're doing just that. Top three remain the same. Gallen, Haywood and Brooks. Danny Solis not quite able to keep up with the pace of the top three. Just in the background, you picture for a split second there. Here's Andrew Brooks. Andrew Brooks probably one of the most consistent the fast drivers we've had in this North America region races, always there in the top three or thereabouts, and always looking like he has the pace to win this thing. Get the impression he might just be biding his time a little bit.
Maybe playing the long game here. We've still got a good number of laps to go, 6.5 remain here at the Nürburgring. Look at the background there, you can see 5th position of Donovan Parker putting some real pressure onto Danny Solis now. Here is Brooks versus Haywood once more as we come up through into the right-handed kink and then into the chicane. But look at Parker, he's closer than he has been on Danny Solis. Solis knows that though. He's wise to it. He's not going to compromise himself too much coming into that chicane by going for the defensive line. He needs to get a good exit out of here, and especially a good exit out of the final corner if he's not going to come under too much pressure from his fellow American driver through that final corner as we ride on board here with Parker. Good run out of there he has, but he's not close enough to mount anything on Danny Solis, even with the advantage of the slipstream at the moment. Coming into the second phase though of the start-finish straight, it's a bit too far away for a late lunge and a bit too early in the race to be considering such a strategy there either, but clearly looking a little bit more comfortable, I'd say, in these mid-stages is Parker compared to Solis.
It's kind of hard to shut one up the inside there. First of all, because of the distance back Parker was, but also because they're braking right at the kink as you go down to the hairpin. Of course, those who know the circuit well know there's just a little bit of a kink before you brake for the first hairpin. And if you start hammering the brakes just as you get the weight on the left-hand side of the car, as you turn a tiny bit for the kink, you can really have a bad time in the braking zone. The car will lock up or wiggle in a way you don't expect it to, and it means that you go from a potential overtake hero to digging your car at the gravel at T1, which I've done many times myself, of course. It comes from a place of sadness.
Overtake hero to gravel trap 0 or something like that.
Yeah, I need that on a t-shirt, I think.
There you go. I'll be in charge of Jimmy Broadbent's next merchandise line, perhaps. So, Danny Solis, we're right on board with here into the left-hander. Look how much late on the brakes and how much more confident Parker looks compared to Danny Solis. Solis looking like he's struggling a little bit. I'm just keeping an eye on the lap times. They're actually relatively similar to one another, you know. They were only a tenth of a second apart, but the man who was actually quickest overall in the entire race last time around was the man who was in second place of Randall Haywood. Of course, Gallen was on an outlap there, so wasn't quite able to match the pace of the American driver, but let's keep an eye out and see whether he's going to be able to close that gap to the race leader. 1.5 seconds it now sits at on lap 8, just about to start lap number 9, so he's clearly stretched that advantage out, and you can see Haywood has got Andrew Brooks very close for company behind. So all of these drivers running very close to one another. What's going through your mind when you're trying to attack the driver in front, but you know you've got to be patient?
It's a bit of a weird one, really, because you become aware that you only have X amount of time left in the race when you're driving. You can become aware that you have to be pacing yourself, so to speak. And in this case, if you're, with the laps running down, you're having the best of the tyre. You're probably starting to think about your fuel strategy as well. Maybe thinking, well, I can't pass him on the circuit. Maybe I'll have to try something in the pit lane. So your mind's always busy in these races, but you have to make sure you're still keeping your head in the game, so to speak, and not thinking too much about the permutations of different strategies, because that's when you end up in the gravel again. So see, a lot of these stories of mine end up with you in the gravel.
It's a recurring theme.
Yeah, very sad recurring theme.
Well, quite. Big F for Jimmy in the chat, please. So, on board here with Andrew Brooks into the Michael Schumacher-esque then. Again, still keeping that pressure onto Randall Haywood at pretty much a constant. Of course, all of these drivers have made one pit stop. You can see the two stoppers a little bit further down. Mark Brunel, Tristan Bayliss just made his second stop last time around. He was actually running inside the top 10, so I wonder whether that strategy is going to work. And what are the different permutations here between the 1 and 2 stop strategies, Jimmy? Normally we see within 2 and 3 stop races, when you make a 3 stop, you just sort of go absolutely, foot to the floor for the entire race. Is that the same for a 2 stopper?
Yeah, essentially. If you're doing the soft, you have to really make your time count on the soft tyre. But then, of course, if you come onto the medium, it's just spend as little time on it as possible, because otherwise you're going to end up having an absolutely terrible time. So, saying that, Brooks, why do I even speak? Because he just comes in and does something completely different straight away. So, Andrew Brooks comes into the pit lane. He's put on the medium tyre. Kevin Pound has done the same. So are you even going to see a free stop strategy from some people here? What did Danny Solis do? 'Cause he's in the pit lane too. He's gone from soft to soft. I think that's number 2. So he's going to go for a free stop strategy.
Just about to say, Donovan Parker there was looking really close to Brooks, who went a bit deep into that first corner. You can see him now right all over the rear wing here. This could potentially be very costly to Brooks' strategy if Parker is able to slip his way up the inside, perhaps coming into the left-hander after this one. If he gets a good exit out of here, this could be potentially the opportunity that Parker needs, but he's a little bit ragged, I think it's fair to say, a little bit oversteery on that corner exit, and Brooks is just able to hold on. That could have, like I say, potentially been very costly to his race here.
It may well have done. Luckily, Brooks has managed to stay ahead for now, so it shouldn't be too hard for him at this point anyway. Brooks now needs to just try and get his head down and make the most of these tyres. They're going to be fresh. That's the good thing. They're going to be fresh mediums, so they are going to be at a decent pace. But we do say that the pace differential is about 1.5 seconds around here. So we'll see if Brooks can offset that on that medium tyre. If anyone can, he can.
Yeah, Andrew Brooks, we know he is a driver who is very consistent, and you can see him now after just running a bit deep into that first corner, has just been able to gather his composure over the last half a lap or so, build out a bit of an advantage to Parker, who doesn't have an imminent threat from behind. Of course, Parker is on that soft combat tyre, Brooks now on that medium, probably going to be on that until the end of the race, I would bet. Mind you, saying that, given the way that the strategy's gone in this race there so far, it would come in at the end of the next lap or something like that and get himself onto the soft tyre. And as I say that, he comes into the pit lane and goes back onto the soft tyre.
Interesting to do that now in this stage of the race. I mean, everyone's got to do that. Everyone needs to have that medium tyre being used. So this is interesting. We've seen a couple of these races already, of course. So it's kind of interesting for us to see how the different regions approach these races. But the end result of it is that Jeff Gallen comes out of the pit lane. He's leading the race now, again, with Randall Hayward second and Lynch in third position. Now, bear in mind, a lot of these guys still have to use that medium tyre, Danny Solis included. And Andrew Brooks, I think, is the first person. Well, he's done now. He's done this free stop, so he's going to be going soft to the end. What's his gap to the lead? If we just have a look down, it's around 5 or 6 seconds, probably 6-7 seconds actually, now that I look at it and add up the numbers on the end of my screen there. So he's definitely got a chance of winning this, given that everyone else has got to make another pit stop.
Well, we'll see what happens. That's the thing we love about Gran Turismo and these races, is that it is relatively unpredictable right to the very end of this one. I have to say, Jeff Gallen, very impressed with him. As you said, Jimmy, you haven't seen him in the top 16 superstars for quite some time. He's come back and he's just looked like he's never been away, really, more than anything. Looking calm, composed, confident. And you can see there, just doing a good job of keeping that gap constant. Meanwhile, here is Andrew Brooks with Donovan Parker, once again, all over his gearbox, trying to find his way through. Very close into that hairpin of turn 7. Into the Michael Schumacher rest, though. This is where Brooks is strong, especially in that second sector. Second half of the lap, I should say, rather. And just not able to find his way through there is Donovan Parker. So whether Brooks made a mistake perhaps in the first part of it, and that allowed Parker to close up, either way, just able to stretch it out a little bit more here.
That's what he needs to do. He needs to just be cool, be calm, collected. We know Brooks is capable of that. And just focus on who's ahead. And right now for him, that is Danny Solis. And it's a lot easier as a driver to chase than to be chased, because you got a target to aim for. You can say, well, he's braking there, I'm going to brake 5 minutes later. And when you're on that fresh compound tyre, you can do that. So now, people coming in for pit stops. I think that was actually Donovan Parker, sorry, who was chasing Brooks in the background. He's now going on to his last tyre of the race, the soft compound. Here is Brooks coming on to lap 12. We expect to see the last pit stops being made end of lap 14 for the guys still yet to take the medium compound tyre. And of course, in that time, Brooks has, basically all he has to do is drive as quick as he can and try and get rid of as much of the gap as possible. I think he's actually gaining on these guys in front too. 1.5 seconds down to Dani Solis.
So then, into the final few laps of this Nations Cup race here for the top 16 superstars of round 16. There is Randall Hayward in second position, who started on pole position in this race, has gone back one position, now in second place. You can see Lynch there in the background. Is he going to be able to have anything in his tank? I think it's just going to be a little bit too far for him at the moment, but still not a bad performance here from him there so far, just opting for that one-stop strategy in this race as opposed to the two stops compared to others around him, and he's got a good advantage over Dani Solis, despite Solis of course having newer, softer compound of tyres. Let's see what happens though, because I'll keep an eye on the lap times. Colin Lynch last time around was a 1:51 flat, whereas Dani Solis a 1:50.9, so only a couple of tenths of a second quicker, but still, if he's able to get his act together over the next couple of laps, he could potentially be able to close up. Again, a bit too far at the moment, but it's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, possibly. And in that time, by the way, Brooks has gained about half a second on Dani Solis in the background. They are, you see, running the same livery. These guys are actually teammates in GT Sports. So of course, they know each other very well, but I'm sure in this situation there'll be no love lost, just straight racing. Around the last corner there, coming on to lap 13 of 15 this will be for Andrew Brooks and Dani Solis. They cross the line just about here, and now it's a run all the way down to the first hairpin. Great on-board shot, so let's see where he brakes for T1. Looks to the left hand, just brakes just around the 150 mark. You see full brake all the way in, then peels off just as they get towards the apex. These things do have a little bit of ABS to them if they want to use them, and a lot of downforce, so you can really hammer the brake at the start of the braking zone and make the most of that. And you see there, just you can see him just pulling in on the back of Solis. Even if you're not looking at the timing sheet, you can just see that gap getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and Brooks is looking pretty fighty out there.
Fastest lap in the entire race last time around for Andrew Brooks, just to give you an idea of that pace, a 1:50.5. Compare that to Dani Solis' 1:49.5 for Andrew Brooks, a 1:50.4 for Dani Solis. So nearly a second faster. He has really come good in these closing stages. That of course is due to the fresher rubber he's got underneath him, and surely it's a matter of when, not if, he's going to be able to attack against the American driver. Coming through in towards the Michael Schumacher S we go once more then. Andrew Brooks looking very competent indeed, potentially ready to snatch fourth position away from Dani Solis. Just biding his time here. If you were sitting behind the wheel here, Jimmy, what would you be thinking? Where would you be looking to attack?
As soon as possible. If I was Andrew Brooks and I knew I had that pace advantage over Dani Solis, I would be sending it probably up here into the chicane and not worrying about if I can stop or not. You've got to really get by as quick as you can, because all the time you're stuck behind someone slower on a slower compound tyre. You see it here, look, he's being held up now and he's unable to do that ultimate lap time that he needs to push the front of the grid. But now, people coming into the pit lane. So, who's coming in? We've got Lynch into the pit lane. I think I might have seen Hayward as well. No, I must have imagined that. But Lynch comes in on that medium compound tyre. So one more place down. It's got to be it now. Brooks there in the slipstream of Dani Solis. Will he dive to the inside and try and make this move down towards T1? It's a bit far back actually for my liking. I thought it'd be closer. So another overtake opportunity squandered by Andrew Brooks. It's not quite close enough there.
So clearly he's got the pace, but, well, the straight line speed, even with the slipstream now, that is surprising, isn't it? So now this is the battle for the final position on the podium as Lynch makes his final pit stop in this race, goes on to the medium compound of tyres, a bit wide there for Dani Solis through the left-hander. That's going to compromise his exit, surely, coming through this following right. That allows Andrew Brooks to pull alongside. We go side by side as we come down in towards the left-hander, and Andrew Brooks is already ahead before the corner there. So a simple mistake from Dani Solis costs him dear. Andrew Brooks through into third position. In the end, he didn't actually have to fight too hard for that.
Well, the gap now for Andrew Brooks to the leader is about, if I do my very quick maths, about 7 seconds or so, 7.5 seconds. So really, he's got to gun it now because he's going to the end. We know Jeff Gallen, I think, still owes that medium compound tyre, as does Randall Hayward. So really, Andrew's just got to, this has got to be the half lap of his life, because those guys will be in the pit lane at the end of the lap, and then we'll see the true gap between him and the leaders.
Well, this is getting very exciting. We love a bit of tension towards the end of these races. That's exactly what we've got here. Andrew Brooks, every apex, every exit needs to be perfect. And we wait for the leaders of Gallen and Hayward to come into the pit. We wait to see where this man is going to emerge. Just look there in the front of your shot. That's Randall Hayward. I think he might potentially be ready to come out ahead of him. Depends on Hayward and Gallen, of course, have got to take fuel on board. They go through into the pit lane then, does Gallen, as does Hayward, and Brooks could potentially be on form here to win this race onto the medium combat of tyres. They're going to have to take a bit of fuel on board potentially. It's only one lap left. Let's see what happens as they come out of the pit lane. Here is your race leader, potentially, of Andrew Brooks as he comes down the start-finish straight, but where is he going to emerge with Gallen and Hayward coming out of the pits? They're just ahead, so Brooks is not able to find his way past. He's on the quicker, softer compound of tyre, but he's got an almighty task on this final lap to try and overhaul Gallen and Hayward.
Yeah, I think just a little bit too far back now to make that work. I think if he had got past Solis a little bit sooner, he may have been able to at least get Randall Hayward. But for now, Jeff Gallen's got a pretty much clear run to the line now. Randall Hayward is going to be looking in his mirrors on that medium compound of tyre. It'll be fresher than Brooks' soft tyre, but I don't think that's going to matter for Andrew Brooks. You've seen how quick he is pretty much at any stage of this race. But I'll tell you what, Jeff Gallen, he's played an absolute blinder. He's got a clear track now to end this race. 2.5 second gap behind to Randall Hayward, who's going to act as a buffer between him and Brooks as well. So just a nice relaxing victory lap now, I think, for Jeff Gallen.
Yeah, it looks like he is home and dry. I'm wondering about Randall Hayward. It's about 1.3 seconds the difference in pace between the medium and the softer compound of tyre. Half a second is the gap between second and third of Hayward and Brooks here. So let's keep an eye on things and see how they go. But yeah, can't take anything away from that man there, Jeff Gallen. Here is Brooks then piling that pressure onto Randall Hayward. He's only really got one more opportunity to find his way through, and that is into the chicane. So a good exit out of here will set him up quite nicely, but again, he's just a bit too far back as things stand. Maybe a good exit and maybe a lunge into the final corner perhaps, if he can upset Hayward's rhythm. Coming into that chicane then into the heavy braking zone. Look at the closing speed. Was there maybe just the slightest of kisses there? Not quite close enough here, but he's got a great run out of it. Hayward's wise to that. He goes defensive. Jeff Gallen's going to take the win here, but we go side by side for second place. Hayward on the inside. Gallen takes the flag. It's a run to the line for second, and surely Hayward, just by the smallest of margins, 85 thousandths of a second, finishes ahead of Andrew Brooks then. Danny Solis in fourth, Lynch in fifth, very close in the lower half of the top 10, but a great battle to the line there between Randall Hayward and Andrew Brooks.
Yeah, you think that maybe Brooks went a bit too early there of that move to the left-hand side. As you say, Hayward was just aware of it straight away and just parked it on the inside. Even with that soft compound of tyre, not quite able to go around the outside there. But a great finish there, and of course a great drive for Jeff Gallen.
Hugely impressive stuff there for Jeff Gallen. Great to see him back in the top 16 superstars. Great to see him at the sharp end of the field there as well, as we wait for our 16 finishers to come over the line. Here are the final results then. You can see Gallen, Hayward and Brooks, the fastest man in that race with the quickest lap, finishes in third position. Danny Solis in fourth place ahead of Lynch, Parker, Bayliss, Kevin Pounder down there in eighth place. Bit of an off race there for Pounder. We're used to seeing him fighting a little bit further up the sharper end of the grid. Maybe the car's just not suiting him. Let's see whether he can turn things around in the latter half of this season. Heck, Grove complete the top 10 ahead of Pinnell, Helt, Mitchell, Stewart, Skeverland and Main Prize down there in 16th position. So those are the final results. Let's see what it means for the points rankings. So the points rankings then, after 16 rounds, you can see that Randall Hayward now sits at the top of the order ahead of Andrew Brooks, who's really closed up. Just 4 points separating them at the sharp end here, Jimmy.
Yeah, he'll be upset, of course, that he couldn't quite get Hayward in the line, because that probably would have made the difference there between him and Hayward at the top of the sheets there. But it's only 4 points, so very easy to overcome. Danny Solis as well, third place. Jeff Gallen, of course, a bit of a resurgence from him, now in up to fourth position too. So lots of movers, and of course we are now in the latter half of the season, so maybe starting to think about solidifying those positions now.
Bad going there at all. You can see Tristan Bayliss in fourth place, just 3 points between him and Robbie Heck in sixth position as well there. A little bit further down the order, relatively close between a few drivers. You can see 12th position of Grove and Helt tied on points as we go into the second half of the online season. Interesting to see how things play out between them. Anyway, that's Nations Cup done. Over to Manufacturer Series.
So that was a look at the Gran Turismo 7 menus and interface. This is a look at it in-game. And, well, Jimmy, the first thing we need to talk about, Trial Mountain is back, thank heavens.
It is, yeah. Oh, I always cringe watching this game, but this driver's crazy, man.
Isn't it? It must be.
Yeah, they've got the same sort of skill set. But I tell you what, I got a lot of time for that menu, the old-style GT menus coming back in. This brilliant new setting here at Trial Mountain. Great to see it kind of be revisited finally.
Yeah, hugely exciting stuff. I love this tunnel section coming out, bursting into the line. It's just such a cool track. It's been slightly remodeled as well for GT7, and you can see you can still make those big old yeets up the inside, such as that Mazda is. And this, of course, is the RX Vision Gran Turismo car as well. The brand new Group 3 car, which has come to GT Sport, is going to be coming to 7. The sound of that rotary engine whirring away is a noise to behold.
Yeah, following that 917K as well. Beautiful old car, of course, steeped in history. And yeah, I can't wait, like all you guys at home, to get my hands on this.
So then, over to the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, the venue of the Manufacturers Series race. Group 4 cars here. Now, you can see the tyres. Unlike what we've seen so far in the top 16 Superstars, and indeed the online season, just the one tyre compound available to drivers here, Jimmy. I think that probably means we're going to have a sprint from start to finish.
Yeah, I mean, these races have been great so far. We've seen a couple of them, and I'm very, very sure we're going to get the same again here, of course, as well. There is that tyre wear factor in there, of course, the ×4 tyre wear. So even on these racing hard tyres towards the end, those that front set of tyres are going to be really feeling it towards the end. So if you push too hard at the start of the race, you're probably going to be finding yourself in a bit of a tricky situation towards the end.
Well, let's see what's going to happen then as we go over to the grid. Our North American competitors on the grid then. Here is how they line up for the Manufacturers Series race. Group 4 cars, to remind you, on pole position, Andrew Brooks in the Citroen GT Group 4 car. Alongside him in the McLaren 650. Yes, good result there for McLaren in qualifying, at least, of Connor Lynch. Third position, Tristan Bayliss in the Porsche Cayman. That car, of course, is very quick in Group 4 trim. Jeff Gallen, the Dodge Viper, up there in 4th position. This is a nice eclectic mix, isn't it? Danny Solis for Subaru in 5th position. Alongside him on the 3rd row of the grid is Donovan Parker in the front-wheel drive Volkswagen Scirocco. Kevin Pounder lines up P7 in the Hyundai Genesis. 8th place, Richard Castro in the Nissan GTR. 9th position on the grid, Randall Hayward, the BMW M4. Has been quick in other regions. Let's see whether he'll be faster in race trim than qualifying. Armin Agakhan, also in the Toyota 86, will be looking to make some progress up the field. Mark Pinnell, 11th place for Alfa Romeo in the 4C. Alongside him is Mitchell in the 2nd of the Dodge Vipers we've seen on the grid here. P13, Tristan Cortez in the Ferrari 458 Italia. 14th place, Robbie Heck in the Porsche Cayman. Final row of the grid in 15th position, Parker Leach in the Audi TT, front-wheel drive car, of course, not necessarily the fastest machine around here. Let's see whether he is going to be able to try and turn things around under race conditions, Jimmy.
Nice to see a different mix of cars. We saw a similar mix in the Oceania and the EMEA races. These are a bit different, and the Citroen of all things on pole position. So good to see Andrew Brooks still repping that brand, still repping it strong as we go in, of course. Links behind in the McLaren and the Porsche and Dodge there. Those different manufacturers have been the top lot. In fact, there's only one repeat, I think. That's Porsche down there in 14th at a glance. So very, very mixed field here. And of course, one of the great things about GT4 and Group 4 racing is all these cars retain quite a lot of their stock specs, and the car is front-wheel drive in the game as well. So it should be an interesting race this, and of course Slipstream's going to be a big factor too, as are those hard compound tyres. So a bit of strategy coming into play as well.
Let's see what happens then. Andrew Brooks, strong finish to him in the Nations Cup race just a few moments ago, as we saw. Can he convert that into an even better result in the Manufacturers Series? Spa-Francorchamps is the venue. 10 laps to decide the winner of round 16 of our top 16 Superstars event, as Andrew Brooks leads the field over the line as we go racing here in Belgium. Lynch holds on to 2nd position as we head into La Source for the first time. Shouldn't see any rash moves being made into that first corner. It's coming down the hill and up through the rise of Eau Rouge and Radion onto the Kemmel Straight, where we might see GT drivers being made. I say that, and I can completely contradict myself, because look at Randall Hayward, really close there to Richard Castro, not able to find his way past here, but a good run down the hill and coming up through the rise might set him up very nicely to try and attack in these opening stages.
Yeah, you always want the draft after Radion, which is a little left-hander at the top of the hill there, and Castro on the cold compound of tyre. I think the hard compound there, is just not quite able to turn the car in. Jeff Gallen, meanwhile, versus Tristan Bayliss, Porsche versus Dodge Viper. Viper goes up the inside, up into third place. Nice move there by Jeff Gallen in the Viper. Now he's focused on getting back towards McLaren and Brooks. I think he lost that place on the way out from the source, so he's grabbed that back and back up to where he started, down towards Bavage for the first time. This is one of the worst corners for that front left tyre. So much load being put into it as you go through there. Now through Ix, so you have to take a lot of that curb on the right-hand side to really open up the corner and carry speed down towards Poole. And you can see down behind us, Tristan Bayliss, pretty quick in that middle sector so far, hanging on to our rear spoiler. But of course, round here as well, Spa very much a circuit of two halves, so to speak. The first half being that middle sector where it's all about the mechanical grip and downforce, and then it's the last and third sector, which is all about, the first and last sector, I should say, which is all about straight line speed, where the Viper usually does pretty well.
Not a good start to the race for Armin Agakan and Robbie Hake, both of those drivers picking up penalties in the opening stages. Can't quite see what that is for at the moment, presumably track limits or colliding with another car. Just to remind you, of course, with these Top 16 Superstars events, unlike in our World Tour events, the game decides the penalties. It's not live stewarded, so they've been deemed by the game to have done something a little bit outside of the spirit of the rules, hence picking up those penalties. Here is Jeff Gallen, though, third position in that Dodge Viper. Nice to see the Viper actually on the sharp end of the field. It's been a long time, I think, since we've seen this American manufacturer fighting at the front of this race, and again, clearly able to keep pace with his fellow competitors, at least in these opening stages, under race conditions. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's very easy to be quick over one lap. Being quick in a race, though, for 10 laps is quite a different kettle of fish.
They used to say the Viper had a truck engine back in the day. I think it was shed a block or something like that. It wasn't quite as easy as calling it a truck engine. But that V10 there, as he dives to the inside, as Jeff Gallen is really just chucking his nose in wherever he can. Lynch there had the better exit despite the bad entrance there. And yeah, Jeff Gallen really showing his intentions together. A man that's not really been around for a little while in these races. He's really come back strong at the moment. And as it is now, he's really putting a serious fight on these top two contenders. We're on the straight now. Watch the speedo on the right-hand side of the screen. Steadily climbs up. This car's been detuned from its road-going version engine-wise. It's actually slower on the road version, so it can be a BOP with these cars here. 155 miles an hour before breaking down to Lake Com, and even then you see Gallen just getting closer and closer to the back end of that McLaren.
Just to remind you, Group 4 cars, of course, here are based on the real-world GT4 cars, but as you can see with the likes of the Citroën, the Dodge Viper, etc., etc., they do have a few different types of machinery that you wouldn't necessarily see in real-world GT4 categories. And again, that's one of the beauties and the unique things about Gran Turismo, is that we're able to do that, and we're able, with the balance of performance, to bring these cars close together and look at the different manufacturers. We're fighting 5 different ones, all inside the top 5. And speaking of those 5 drivers, actually, look at that, 3.1 seconds they've been able to pull out over Kevin Pounder in the Hyundai, who is in 6th position. So these guys have clearly got a good amount of pace and just absolutely tearing off as things stand.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you need to be doing really in this race. It's all about that symmetry in that draft. If you start giving that to others, you're going to be bringing more people than you want into this pack at the front of the field. We're on board now with Tristan Bayliss. All you can hear is a Viper in front. It's the very characteristic drone of the V10 engine come through Stablo 2 now, up towards Bombshell again. This is where top speed really helps out the acceleration. You see that Porsche maybe lacking a little bit of it, and in the background, one car doesn't belong there, Tom, does it? It's the Subaru in the background there. By comparison, quite tall compared to these kind of sports cars, but that's a great thing about the Group 4 class. These cars are balanced together, so they run at different speeds. So McLaren can race with a Viper, can race with a Subaru Impreza.
Yeah, we're normally used to seeing that being sent around the mountains of Corsica, not being sent around the corners of Spa-Francorchamps. Danny Solis as we ride on board with him then in the slipstream of that Porsche, down in towards La Source then for the start of this third lap, doing a good job of keeping under pressure. We've seen that car being very quick in other regions as well. If you look at Mikael Hazal, who of course is at the top of the order for the manufacturer series in the EMEA region, so we know that car has definitely got the possibility to compete at the sharper end of the field. Riding on board here with the American driver of Solis, though, sitting at the back of this train at the moment. So Andrew Brooks then, he's in the lead of this race, but he's not been able to pull out an advantage. Why do you think that is?
Draft, 1+N, just draft round here, and there you go. And then you'll see him coming to effect again. Lynch had a good run coming through the top of Radion, and now he's going to just chuck it up the inside of Brooks and take that place away, which is going to be good for him. Will it open the door as well for Jeff Gallen in the background? He tries it, but Andrew Brooks says, no mate, I'm only going to lose one place here, I don't want to lose two. But yeah, as we were saying, Tom, it's just the draft. It's so hard to get away from people around here because everyone's always at the slipstream and having a bit more straight line speed than you, as Danny Solis chucks it up the inside of Tristan Bailey, has to sacrifice a bit of speed to get towards the apex end, and just about makes that stick, slots in ahead of Tristan in the Porsche. And that's what it's like around here. One small mistake or one slightly missed apex, and it just opens the door for the car behind, especially when a pack of cars running this closely.
So then down through Rouen we go. These drivers running nose to tail with one another at the moment. A bit further down the order, I can see that Armin Aga-Khan has made some ground. He's now ahead of Robbie Hegg in 12th position. Aga-Khan having, of course, had that penalty on the opening lap. But look at Tristan Bayliss all over the rear wing of Danny Solis, trying to fight his way back through and not allow Solis to go too far in front. Squabble with these drivers. Just look at how close they're running to one another. Almost poetry in motion. You can throw a blanket over them almost because they're running so close to each other. Just a couple of tenths of a second really separating each driver from the one in front. Very impressive to see them, and that camera angle really doing justice for it as well. So Conor Lynch in the McLaren now leads the way as we come towards the end of lap 3. Is anybody going to think about a move into the bus stop chicane? It's quite early to be doing something like that, but if you're the back of this duo, you might be thinking about it. You can see there Brooks going a little bit defensive. Gallen goes for the outside line, allows the door to open there for Danny Solis. It's going to be about corner exit then as we come out of the bus stop chicane and come down the start-finish straight. Very close indeed, nearly 3 wide as Brooks has got the inside line, Gallen on the outside. Here comes Danny Solis, ready to try and take advantage, side by side between Brooks and Gallen, then in towards La Source. Citroen versus Dodge as they come to the outside of the corner. Here comes Danny Solis with a good run then, and this is going to carry on all the way up through Eau Rouge and Radion. It's very much one at a time through there, so somebody's going to have to blink. Brooks is just ahead in second position, Gallen in third, Solis in fourth place. Up through the rise we come and onto the Kemmel Straight as we ride on board here with Danny Solis then. Is he going to be able to make a move coming down in towards Lake Coombe? Of course, the disadvantage for him is that Gallen in front also has the slipstream. You can see Brooks doesn't have quite the same straight line speed advantage. He goes a bit defensive, tries to throw off the charge of Jeff Gallen, and it stays as it is there for now. So, very close racing, lots of tension-filled drama between them, but the drivers staying put as things stand.
They've got to be careful, really. I mean, it's very fun to watch these guys squabbling for the second step of the podium, but that's what they're vying for. It's not the first step. And Lynch, of course, in front. He's got to start fighting hard as they are now. Daniel Solis and Jeff Gallen almost coming to blows there, coming into X. That Lynch is going to get away with a big smile on his face. So, and I think Brooks and Gallen are sort of aware of that. So they're sort of coming down a little bit after that first little scrap, of course, as well. But in the background, Kevin Pounder getting a little bit closer as well. 2.5 seconds, it was 3 seconds last lap at this point in the circuit. I've been keeping an eye on it as we go around. So this might be a 6-way battle before the end if Kevin can get onto the back of this pack, but it's quite hard to gain when you're not in the slipstream around here. You have to really hope these guys fight it out as they have been, otherwise you're sort of just left on your own. Here is Kevin in the Hyundai. Behind him is Jonathan Parker in the VW Scirocco. Again, not quite close enough to the front pack to be getting that draft, but if these guys work together, they could end up getting there.
Further down the order, look to Italian stallions battling with one another. Ferrari versus Alfa Romeo for 12th place with Tristan Cortez and Marc Pinel. Interested to see what's going on between those drivers a little bit further down because they are looking pretty close to one another. Still running on board here with this battle for the lead with Jeff Gallen then. I have to say it was interesting, actually, wasn't it? Because as soon as Gallen and Brooks fought with one another, Lynch was just able to pull out an advantage, but as they've sorted themselves out, and especially in the second half of this lap, the gap has now come back down to half a second. There is Conor Lynch leading the way in that McLaren. Just in the background of your shot, as Jim said, of course you've got Kevin Pounder, Donovan Parker, ready to try and close up. The thing is, those two need to try and work together if they get close to one another on track, not hold each other up, so that they're able to get involved with this 5-way scrap. And this is exactly what we like to see at this halfway stage in the race. A promising finish is what it's set to be, and that is the thing, of course, with it being a no-stop race. Effectively, we're not expecting anybody to make a pit stop in this one on the hard compound of tyre. It's just a sprint from start to finish, and it's proving to be an absolute treat here so far.
There are definitely arguments for and against pit stops and fuel stops, etc. But around here, this combination just seems to work. There is Jeff Gallen in the Dodge Viper, relaxed a little bit from the rear spoiler of Andrew Brooks in front. As you say, Tom, like, they've got to be careful. These guys aren't stupid. They'll know that they swaddle, that they're going to allow the guys behind to catch up and the guy in front to pull away. And you have to sort of try and not take your current position to heart, so to speak. So, for example, you're Kristen Bailiff right now, you're in 5th place. Do you want to try as hard as you can to get past Danny Solis to then have a go at Jeff Gallen? Or do you want to wait? Do you want to wait until something happens and then slide by and do that without losing time? You have to sum up those possibilities in your head and kind of figure out what's going to be worth doing and what isn't going to be worth doing. And I think Brooks and Gallen are sort of appreciating that right now, thinking, well, if we push now, we're going to have more than 5 cars battling for the win. It's better to have just us 5 and then put ourselves in a position maybe at the end of the race where we can take the win and the guys behind us.
Huge apologies, by the way, to Christopher Lynch, actually, not Connor Lynch. I've been calling him Connor for the entirety of this one. I've just looked down through my notes. It turns out it's the first time it's Christopher, so my apologies there, Chris. I didn't mean to get that incorrect. Sadly, sometimes brain fade comes into play for commentators as well. So Chris Lynch leads the way in this race in the McLaren 650, as we just saw very close further back as well between Richard Castro and Randall Hayward for 8th position. The GTR getting ahead of the BMWs, and now here we can see Andrew Brooks very close behind Chris Lynch. Then is he going to think about a move into the bus stop chicane? Lynch goes defensive. That's going to allow the door to open as well on the outside there for Jeff Gallen. Side by side between Brooks and Gallen through the bus stop chicane. The Dodge Viper is ahead on corner exit and ready to try and take profit of Lynch here as well as we come down the start finish straight. Here comes Danny Solis, who's now side by side with Andrew Brooks. So 2 pairings of drivers battling for position. Lynch is ahead then. Who's going to get into 2nd place down to the first corner? Brooks just backs out of it momentarily, but Solis is going to go through into 2nd position at the exit of La Source then. So Lynch holds on in the McLaren. Now Solis in the Subaru into 2nd. Then comes Gallen versus Brooks. But it's not Gallen versus Brooks, it's Solis versus Gallen, and the Dodge is now ahead of the Subaru into La Source, into Oru, sorry.
Like sharks, these guys, aren't they? As soon as you get blood in the water, they all just jump at it, and he had almost 4 wide going down the straight as they finally said, well, maybe it's time to get through here. And they did that fairly well. I know it was quite messy almost on our end, but they did that without losing too much time to the background. Jeff Gallen finally decides he wants to go for the lead of this race, and a bit of hip and shoulder on the way past there of Lynch, Chris Lynch, not Connor Lynch, as you've been putting into my mind. Yeah, you know.
Sorry about that.
And in the background as well, Lynch is going to lose another place now to Danny Solis at the same time. So Danny, I think, now is starting to wind it up, thinking, right, okay, I can go for the win in this race. I've got to stay towards the front of it, so I'm going to stay in 2nd. And Andrew Brooks, who led this at one point, is now down in 5th place. He's lost out big time.
So then, what is Andrew Brooks going to be able to do? We know he thrives under pressure, but is he going to be able to have a charge? This is just brilliant, isn't it? 5 drivers. This has been a race-long scrap as well. It's not like it's just come on in the last couple of laps. It's been a continuing theme from lights out to this point, and hopefully we get it all the way until the checkered flag. Riding on board here with a very unique cockpit of that Citroen GT, a Vision Gran Turismo car, of course. Back in GT5 is when it was first officially unveiled. Love to see it being carried over from that into GT Sport here today. And with a bit of luck, we might see it on the brand new title of GT7 as well. Now here is Chris Lynch coming under pressure from Tristan Bayliss. This is great to see from Tristan as well, because he's been driving for Porsche for a very long time. Of course, helped that team to a win back in Tokyo in our World Tour back in October last year. But this year, in Group 3 trim at least, that car has not been anywhere near as competitive as we've seen. Clearly the balance of performance, which has been updated very recently in Group 4 trim, has just allowed that car to be quite competitive, and that's what we're loving to see here, is Tristan fighting at the sharper end of the field.
Yes, he'll be happy with that, of course, as well, and good to see a return to form there. And And now, here we go, Danny Solis is thinking about maybe having a look at Jeff Gallen coming down to the source. No, he thinks better of it. I think he thinks that he knows he can get the draft, have an easier pass, so to speak, up towards Lake Com. If you make a move at the source, you're kind of just saying, well, okay, you'll go now, mate, and you tend to lose the place once again at the end of the Kemmel Straight. Here we are on board the very familiar boxer engine sound Subarus who go up the hill. Flat up here for these Group 4 cars over the inside curve there of Radion, and now this is what I was talking about. Now Danny has the run, now he has the draft. Jeff Gallen is driving in the middle of the road, keeping his options open for where he wants to go. What's Danny Solis going to do? Yeah, he dives to the inside, has a nose on the inside corner of Jeff Gallen, so the corner is, sees if he can outbrake him, tries to go later on the brakes than Jeff Gallen. He's going to try and get it done. They're still rubbing door handles now. It's coming to the second part of the corner. Danny's still got the inside, but he won't have the exit, and Jeff Gallen's going to drive around the outside, keep the place. Well, he just comes over just there for the inside of Rivage, just about has to keep it. There's contact between the two. Jeff Gallen is forced out wide now. He's still just about holding on. Penalty for Tristan Bayliss in the background. That's going to put paid to his race. Bad luck for him. And Danny Solis stays in second place for now. No, they're still going at it. Jeff Gallen finally pulls ahead. This is what I was talking about. Look at the background now. There's Kevin Pounder, 1.6 seconds behind. And with the 1 second penalty for Tristan Bayliss too, disaster there for Tristan. But that's going to allow these guys to get involved as well, just scrap for the lead.
Well, disappointing there for Tristan Bayliss. Great action though. Look at Chris Lynch. He's just been showing the drivers in front, Danny Solis or Jeff Gallen, a bit of a nose every few corners or so. Just making them aware, you know, hello, I'm here, I'm ready to try and take an advantage when you guys falter. Speaking of faltering there, Tristan Bayliss, well, he'll be very sad after that one. And 1 second penalty is potentially going to drop him, well, it's definitely going to drop him out of contention of this squabble, but it could potentially drop him back as far as 7th position with Kevin Pounder very close behind there as well as Donovan Parker. Let's see what will happen though. Coming through Blanchimont we go, ready to come on to the 8th lap. There is Jeff Gallen, your race leader, soaking up that pressure once more of Danny Solis. These guys now starting to stick their elbows out a bit more. They've been very close and very neat with one another. And here comes Danny Solis with a very late lunge down the inside into the bus stop chicane. Jeff Gallen holds the line, holds firm. Solis is going to try and get a better corner exit as they draw very close to one another, not quite alongside. That penalty then is about to be served for Tristan Bayliss on this next lap here as well as they come up over the Kemmel Straight. But Jeff Gallen versus Danny Solis versus Christopher Lynch for position, as well as Andrew Brooks now. It's getting very interesting, and Tristan Bayliss has also in turn lost out with Kevin Pounder, so that's clearly disrupted his rhythm a little bit. And even before serving that penalty, he's now down into P6.
Yeah, and of course, importantly now, this second group has actually caught up now to this first group. And unfortunately for Tristan Bayliss, he'll take no further part in this race for the win. Unfortunately, to this 1 second penalty, must have picked up with a little bit of contact. So easy to have contact in races like this where the racing is so close. That would be so frustrating for him, having done so well to keep up with the pack. But he's been replaced now by Kevin Pounder. So it's Gallen, Solis, Lynch, Brooks, Pounder now as we come on to the second part of lap 8. Danny Solis there still looking very, very aggressive in that Subaru. Now, of course, the tyres at this point are going to be quite worn, even those those racing hard tyres. They've been on them for quite some time now. The equivalent, I think, of 34 laps, 36 laps. My maths is pretty bad, something like that. Quite a few laps, so to speak. So, at this point, it's really not going to be 32 laps. It's not going to be feeling very good out there, especially through Poole on this long left hand. It goes on for absolutely forever, and that right front tyre is crying out for some sort of relief as you get now to the pith path, the Fanion chicane. Great camera back there as well, looking at Danny Solis. But Lynch there also dropping off a tiny bit. Maybe this is becoming a two-horse race, Tom.
Well, I'm excited to see how it's all going to play out here, because it has been so close between them, and as you say, just sort of little groups splintering away. And if we do get a duel to the line between Gallen and Solis, that'll be very exciting, but we'd love to see some other drivers involved here. Christopher Lynch now coming under more pressure from Andrew Brooks, who again has just slowly been whiling away, chipping away at Christopher Lynch over the last couple of laps or so. Hasn't been making any rash moves, hasn't been looking too aggressive, but is ready to pounce when the time is right. He's a bit of thinking man, isn't he, Andrew Brooks? Is looking very competent out there on track. Here comes Danny Solis, though, ready to dive down the inside, but not quite actually going into that bus stop chicane, so proving me wrong there. As you can see, Lynch there in the background. That's the thing though, isn't it? Look, just one move there from Solis and he's got Chris Lynch all over his rear wing once again.
Yeah, he's be careful with timing that, of course, as you go through there. And Daniel's tried that a couple of times through there, and I think he's just trying out maybe the run to the line. You're saying about Andrew Brooks been thinking, man. He's thinking about getting up into the top 3. I think at this point he's languishing now in 4th place. So the problem is you can sit there and think, oh, I'm playing the strategy game, but you know, right now his track position is not with him. He's in 4th place. He's got a car that isn't too quick in a straight line compared to the others, so he needs to really nearly start mixing up with his guys, especially now he's got Kevin Pounder behind in the Hyundai. What's this Hyundai like in the straight line? It's the first time we've seen it in this little pack now. So we're in the draft. You can see the speedometer to the bottom right hand corner of your screen. 155 for reference of Jeff Gallen's speed at the end of this straight in the Dodge Viper. Just about the same, maybe a mile per hour off actually on the other cars, but that's not too bad. And now we come through this middle section, and this is it. This is the train we've seen for the entirety of the race now, coming on to 1.5 laps left, and this is the time you need to start making those moves and putting yourself to the front of the pack. A bit like cycling in that regard. You've got to really make sure you're there and in it to win it, otherwise you're going to end up just being in the back of this pack and with nowhere to go.
Well, if you're Kevin Pounder, you've been slowly making your way to the back of this group. What's going through your mind right now?
Send it. Yeah, you got to get up there now. This is the end. Like, you know, you spent a long time getting here. You can either, you know, try and do what you've been doing in the last 2 laps and start, you know, eking out that gap bit by bit, or you can just go in there and absolutely send it. You've got to get by, get onto the draft of the cars in front, and just leapfrog on the way up. If you want that win, maybe he's just happy to be in 5th place, but if you want the win, you've really got to start making those moves. It's got to happen now.
Well, there we go then. Top advice from Jimmy Broadbent. Frame that quote, write it on a wall somewhere, and frame it, because that's what you've got to do. Meanwhile, it's Danny Solis through the second part of Stavilo, really close once more to Jeff Gallen. When is he going to strike? When's he going to pounce? He's had a great run coming out of there and coming in towards Blanchimont now, so he's got the advantage of the slipstream, unlike Jeff Gallen, of course, here, and surely it's going to be a case of when and not if he finds his way through against him at some point over the next lap or so. Gallen, is he going to go defensive into that bus stop chicane? Too much at the moment. Solis is going to dart to the inside, exactly the same as he tried last time around. He dives through into the race lead, holds off the charge there of Jeff Gallen. Christopher Lynch in the background, ready to try and take advantage as well. On to the final lap here at Spa-Francorchamps. Solis leads the way from Gallen, from Christopher Lynch, but who is going to be leading the way in 7.1 kilometres time?
Yeah, Lynch needs to be closer there, and he goes for a bit of a late dive. I think there's actually contact between him and Gallen. I think there must have been there, because Jeff went very wide on exit, and Lynch now up into P2. Was there contact? We'll see if there's a penalty coming up now. It might have just been a mistake from Gallen. We had a bit of a poor camera angle there. That is a godsend, though, for Danny Solis, because he's got a little bit of a gap now, but we know that Macca is damn fast in a straight line, so even with the draft, we'll be dragging Jeff Gallen with him, so this is far from over. Here's Danny Solis leading, coming up the Kemmel Straight for the last time, trying to break the toe. Lynch there on the inside, trying to protect himself from Gallen. Gallen using that V10 engine to try and pull onto the back and past Lynch. Will he be able to go around a long way? Coming into Lacombe, he's gone round Lynch, and he's gone round Solis too. Is he going to make that stick? No, hasn't quite got the tyre life for that. Quite an enthusiastic attempt, but not going to quite come off for him. And Lynch now coming back at him on the inside of Lacombe. Gallen back up to P2.
Look at Kevin Pounder ready to send it down the inside at Rivage here. Very close on the brakes there for Kevin Pounder. Does he make the move, stick into the right-hander? It's very close indeed, but I think Brooks is going to hold off in towards X. No, he's not. Pounder makes it stick, so Pounder's got his elbows out then here on this final lap. Oh, it's all to play for, isn't it? Lots of tension filling the air. Solis has just been able to pull out a bit more of an advantage here. Kevin Pounder, though, really coming of age, Jimmy, on this last lap.
Definitely. One more place, I think, maybe possible for him if we can get by Lynch. I think the battle for first and second is pretty much decided at this point. The gap has started to come out. Pounder looks to the inside of the pith path. I wouldn't try it there, as Lynch just about pulls across to cover that off. Here's the view from Andrew Brooks. He'll be thinking, hang on a minute, why am I down in 5th? I was pole position here. What's happening here? But he's really running out of time to make anything change here, to come up now through Stavilo 1 and through Stavilo 2 for the last time.
So, riding on board here with Andrew Brooks, then can he do anything? Can Kevin Pounder do anything? Chris Lynch, of course, in 3rd position, does have a slipstream, but not quite as effective it is going to be compared to Kevin Pounder's, who is very close behind. Danny Solis looks like he's pulled an absolute blinder here on this final lap, has had the pace and has just been able to stretch out that advantage, but is anybody going to send it down the inside to the bus stop chicane? I think they're just going to be a day late and $1 short if they do. Hard on the brakes we go into the final series of corners, and out of it now, Danny Danny Solis is going to take the win here in the Manufacturers Series race for the top 16 superstars for the North Americas region. Jeff Gallen comes home in second, and Christopher Lynch takes a brilliant third position ahead of Kevin Pounder and Andrew Brooks. Tristan Bayliss a dejected 6th place after that penalty ahead of Donovan Parker, Richard Castro, Mitchell and Hayward complete the top 10, but a very tension-filled race there in the Manufacturers Series, Jimmy.
Yeah, that was a decent one, wasn't it? Oh, one of the good ones. And Daniel Solis, I think, just proving it doesn't matter where you are on the laps leading up to the last lap. It matters where you are on the final lap when you cross the line, and making his move right at the correct time, forcing Jeff Gallen to have to deal with Chris Lynch behind, slowed him up into there, and then through the middle sector. As soon as he was ahead coming out of Lake Holm, I think he knew he'd won it.
Yeah, hugely impressive stuff there from all of those drivers. You can see our 16 finishers there, only 13 of which actually ended up making the checkered flag. So then, that is how it sits in the race. Let's see what it means for the points rankings. So Danny Solis now leads the way, just 2 points ahead of Andrew Brooks. Well, we're at the halfway stage of the top 16 superstars. I have to say that is a very tantalising prospect for the second half of this season. Armin Aghakan and now Jeff Gallen also very close. So Gallen again with 2 hugely strong performances in Nations and Manufacturers, Jimmy, looking very close to one another here.
Yeah, definitely, and a great showing for the PX7 guys. They've got 3 of their guys inside the top 5 of the Manufacturers Series, which is a pretty impressive feat, if you ask me, of course. Again, just disappointing for Bayliss. He'll be upset with that result, losing a place out there to Randall Hayward as well. Didn't see Nick McMillan Gumbel here this time around, maybe opting to miss things out in the Aston Martin, but yeah, very tight at the top. Looking forward to seeing how it develops.
Well, Jimmy Broadbent, over those 2 races, just give us very quickly your moment of the top 16 superstars event for the North Americas region in either the Manufacturer Series or the Nations Cup.
I think just a couple of moments really in the Manufacturer Series where someone would go for a pass at the front and then suddenly it's like 18 wide going down to T1 as they're all squabbling for the place. I think it's just great to see those sort of bursts of action there, and I think this format for the GT4 race or the Group 4 race at Spa just really worked. Not to say it'll work for other circuits, but it definitely worked here.
Really exciting to see that great driving from all of our competitors here in the top 16 Superstars event. We'll be back for round 20 of the FIA GT Championships on the 5th of July. From Jimmy Broadbent and from myself, Tom Brooks, thank you very much indeed for joining us this time around. We'll see you next time. Take care, stay safe.